Well, you could call it the ceasefire to nowhere, despite many attempts by Western diplomats to put a halt to the nonstop fighting between the regime of Bashar al-Assad and rebel groups. Syria remains hell on earth. The response of Russia and Iran, which are backing the Assad regime, to any peacemaking efforts in places like Aleppo, Syria's largest city, has basically been to scoff and keep on bombing. On the other side, there is ISIS and Islamic terrorist groups who really don't have much interest in negotiating with the infidel. So, what we have in Syria is a situation where some of the world's worst actors are butchering each other and countless innocent civilians at a horrifying rate. Here's a closer look. It's the world's most brutal and complicated conflict and a massive humanitarian disaster. Over the past 5 years, the Syrian civil war has left millions of people displaced and hundreds of thousands more dead. Aided by Russia, Iran, and the terror group Hezbollah, the regime of Bashar al-Assad clings to power. Yet ISIS still controls large parts of the country, and other terror groups continue to wreak havoc here as well. Amid all the bloodshed, world powers are pushing to establish a truce.
We need to stop the cycle of fighting and of bloodshed that is destroying Syria.
But that has proven easier said than done. Despite all the diplomatic efforts, the violence continues and is moving ever closer to Syria's border with Israel, as Iran, ISIS, and their proxies seek to establish terror bases on the Golan Heights. The Golan is all that separates Israel from the terrorist hordes that are rampaging right next door in Syria. Wrap your head around this. According to most estimates, at least 400,000 people have been killed since the Syrian civil war broke out in early 2011. That means in only 5 years, nearly 500,000 people have perished in Syria. That includes thousands of children. Who could forget this little guy? He lived, but his brother was killed. Then there are the ancient Syrian Christian communities that have been massacred by ISIS and seen their churches and villages destroyed in what can only be described as a genocide against followers of Jesus. Now, we've taken you to Israel's border with Syria here on The Watchman to show you how the war is literally unfolding on Israel's doorstep. When you stand on the Golan Heights, as I have, you can hear the explosions in the distance. So needless to say, Israel has a vested interest in what happens next door in Syria. But what about America? Know this. Thousands of Westerners, Brits, French, Germans, and yes, U.S. citizens have traveled to Syria to fight alongside ISIS, and now they are returning home, battle-hardened and tested. We've already seen ISIS terrorists carry out deadly attacks in Paris and Brussels after slipping in among the wave of refugees fleeing Syria for Europe, and ISIS is calling for more such attacks right here. Our team here at Christians United for Israel realizes that America's enemies and Israel's enemies are one in the same. We're standing with Israel and the Jewish people as they face the same evil forces that want to wipe America and the church off the face of the earth. We are America's largest pro-Israel organization, a mighty movement of God that is 3.2 million members strong and growing every day. You see the information there on your screen, and you're hearing about the perilous times we are living in. So join us. Here at CUFI, we know that God Almighty still sits on the throne.